Hello, hello, good day, everyone. This is Dano from DefDevice, and today I have Mr. Ash Monga, the founder of IMEX Sourcing Services, with me. Welcome, Mr. Ash.
Thanks, Daniel. Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure to be
Yeah,
here.
yeah, man. I'm also very excited to hear from you after so many years. We have been kind of working together, back in the days when I was an Amazon seller and you were already doing your sourcing stuff and you helped me with some. I think I was in big trouble at one time because my products were not properly inspected. There was some problems, and you really helped me out, fixing this and getting some inspection service set up. So I was that was really helpful. So thanks again for saving my manufacturing stuff back in the days.
No, thank you so much for trusting me with that. I think we go way back before that, but yeah, I'm glad we've had a chance to work together as well. So, and thanks
Yeah,
for having me again. I'm really excited to, talk to you today.
yeah, we go way back, man. But let's look at what Ash Monga is doing today and what IMEX sourcing is all about.
Sure, absolutely. So IMEX is, I don't like to say we are a sourcing service because it's funny, a lot of people think IMEX sourcing services, and it's kind of doesn't really represent the scope of our business very well anymore because we like to call ourselves a supply chain management company. And sourcing
Hmm.
is a part of that, and it normally reflects about 20-25% of our workload. And that's we've been around for 12 years now. So when we started off, it was mainly a sourcing operation, and over time we've kind of expanded. And we thought about changing the name, but then we thought, hey, we have like 12 years of history online, so we never really did that.
Oh
But
yeah, rebranding can be pain in the backside. Yeah.
yeah. So, but we, in a nutshell, we work with Amazon sellers, basically helping them manage the entire supply chain in China. So, right from finding the factories to doing the due diligence on suppliers, contract negotiations, new product developments, and even because we work with quite a few larger sellers, so we do a lot of exclusivity agreements where a factory can only sell to a certain buyer and those kind of things. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's an essential part of being an Amazon seller. I think not only today, but also like in the last few years and in the years to come, to have a partner like you. And just to clarify, you are based in China, right?
that's right. Yes, I've been living in China for pretty much the last 12 years, except, with during COVID, I was kind of stuck outside China because of regulation and
Hmm.
stuff, but
Hmm.
our team has always been there
Hmm.
operating within China. So yes,
You're in Shenzhen, right?
Guangzhou.
Yeah, in Guangzhou. Well, that's not so far away,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah,
This
yeah. So it's basically a few kilometers away from Hong Kong, right? Just to give people like an idea of where it is.
absolutely, yes. It's a 2-hour train ride from Hong Kong, and now we have the high-speed train, which actually takes an hour. And
Wow.
just for perspective, because a lot of the times people from outside the community don't know Guangzhou as well. If you're doing any sort of business with China, you would probably know Guangzhou because it's actually the third
Yeah,
largest city in China. So
yeah.
it's massive, but it's more of an traditionally been an industrial city.
Hmm.
Although all the industry has now moved out of Guangzhou, but generally this is where the trading center of China is.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So you're right at the heart of China's manufacturing and trading hub, and you're the man on the ground, So that was one of the things that made me so comfortable working with you, because you're not just another guy who will talk to the guy in China, because you are the guy in China. You are the one who's right there and who could literally like walk into the factory and tell them what to do, and I don't know. Do you speak Chinese?
Yes, I speak enough to survive. I wouldn't say I'm great, but I recently got married to a Chinese woman. So since then,
Ah.
I've been on a, how do you say, like I've been a bit more focused on improving my Chinese, and I'm on an
Mhm.
accelerated learning program now.
Mhm.
But yes, so I think I can speak enough to get around and get stuff done.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a complex language, and I appreciate you taking the effort to learn it. But I think, yeah, it is important when you live in the country. And then there's
Absolutely.
not just one Chinese, right? There's Mandarin and Cantonese. Which one are you learning right now?
Mandarin. So I live in Canton.
Mandarin.
Actually, Canton is another name for Guangzhou,
Ah.
but Mandarin is what the majority of the population speaks. It's the official
Hmm.
language. So
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
terms of connecting with the country as a whole,
Hmm. Hmm.
Mandarin makes a little bit more sense to learn.
Oh, yeah. So, Amazon sellers, if you need help with your supply chain, manufacturing, inspection, any of that stuff, Ash is the guy right there who can take care of all this stuff. And
Thank
then,
you.
you know what is my this podcast is about your life story. So, since we have a understanding of what's going on today, let's find out how little Ash became big Ash. So, let's go a few years back when you were 10 years old. Where were you? What were you doing? What was your life like?
So I was I grew up in India, so I was there at that
Oh,
point,
which
and
part?
New Delhi, actually, the capital.
Ah.
So that's home for me. But I kind of moved out when I was quite young. I moved to the UK. I was there for many years, and then I ended up in China, and this has been home for me for
Mm,
12 years now, really. So,
mm,
but yes, it all started in India, and I was in school when I was 10. So I don't know how much I can remember. Actually, I was in a boarding school at that point.
mm-hmm,
So that was an interesting phase because staying away from family at that age, although I didn't survive there for too long, I was only there for like a couple of years, but I learned a lot of skills in terms of being independent, staying
mm-hmm,
away from family, and it was the training regime there was very strict because it used to be under army control back in the day. So we
mm-hmm,
used to get it very early and stuff. So it kind of gave me a certain level of self-discipline, which I wouldn't say I was able to maintain for long enough until I kind of got it back in the last few
mm-hmm,
years on this journey. But yes, and then moving on from there, I moved back to school in Delhi, and that's where really my entrepreneurial journey started. And at that point, it wasn't about vision or changing the world. It was all about, hey, how can I make as much money as I can? And just to share a little story with you. So obviously, uh, you may or may not be aware of it, but India is a cricket obsessed country. It's cricket is a religion
Yep,
there.
I've heard of it. Yeah, just
So
like the
yeah,
Germans on football, or yeah, or
absolutely.
soccer. Yeah, or yeah.
Yeah, so cricket stars there are basically gods. And
Mm-hmm,
and so how it started was, so back in the day with every chewing gum we bought, we used to get a cricket card, which was the equivalent of a trump card that you used to get for wrestlers and stuff. And everyone was really excited about building a collection from 1 to 100. And the what the company did was they had a series from 1 to 100 where 85% of the series was very easily available, but there were about 15% of the cards that were very rare. So obviously
mm,
that worked quite well because people kept buying in order to complete that collection. So the chewing gum used to sell for a rupee, and the card used to come free with it. But those rare cards used to trade in the market for like 100, 200, even 500, depending on how rare they were.
mm-hmm,
Because kids were
mm-hmm,
desperate to complete their
mm-hmm.
collection, right?
Yeah.
So how my first entrepreneurial venture started was I wanted to buy a card to complete a venture. So I paid someone like a couple of $100. I got it, and then immediately when I looked at the card, I went to, I was quite happy I finally completed my collection, but it just felt a bit dodgy. So I kind of looked it around and stuff, and I realized it was actually a fake.
What?
Uh, yes, but I was initially a bit pissed off, and then I had an idea. I was like, how did this guy do this? you know, and what
Ah.
I so color copy was actually quite new in India that time. I just literally learned it, right? So I kind of did some research, found this shop that did color copying, copied all my rare cards,
Hmm.
and obviously, kind of put them together, the front and back. I got them laminated, and it looked like 85-90% as good as an original.
Mm-hmm.
And I started selling those, and I made a pretty good amount of money, doing that. So.
You were a gangster, man. Wow, not
Yeah,
bad.
no, I mean, back
A
in
card
ethical
gangster.
con Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't probably do it again, for ethical considerations. But back in the day, it was like, hey, if he can make some money. So I was kind of initially pissed off with the guy, and then I felt very grateful. I was like, this guy's just handed me over like a money printing machine.
Wow.
So that was my
Turning bad luck
first.
into good luck. Yeah, that's a very interesting principle that can be applied here. You know how you accept that you experience bad luck, but then by thinking about it, you actually turn it into good luck. So that's amazing.
Absolutely. Not that I would advise any kids to do this. But
No.
yes, it was my first venture, probably not the most ethical one, but I think I was 12 or 13 at that age, so I didn't really
Ah,
have that I wasn't able to discern what's right and wrong, but that's how it
I
started.
think
And
it's
actually,
forgivable. Yeah, it's you didn't really harm anyone. I mean, you sold fake cards, so I mean, yeah, it didn't hurt anyone really.
yes, and you know what I found interesting is talking to other entrepreneurs over the years that a lot of people who are like entrepreneurs have had similar stories. They
Mhm.
started off, so one of my really good friends had a similar story where he started off buying copy watches from China and selling them on Amazon and eBay. eBay actually, even before Amazon kind of took off. And
Mm.
so I think at that point the idea was, hey, you're experimenting and you're making things happen.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm. Yeah.
so yeah, that's how it started, and surprisingly, I was able to scale this for quite a few years because there were some
Wow. For
variations of these
years.
things. Yes,
Wow.
so what happened was eventually there were other companies with their own collections and stuff, and it kind of worked out well. The technology obviously got better over the time,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it worked well. Made me a decent amount of money, and then there was a raid on my wardrobe, and my parents kind of found a stack of cash, and they got worried. They thought maybe I'm, I'm doing drugs or whatever, and they got like really worried. So I was told off and stuff, so I had to kind of shut down that venture there and then.
Oh.
Uh, but it was great fun while it lasted. uh,
The
so
card dealer, Ash the card dealer. No bad. See, I mean, this is why I love these podcasts so much because I would have never heard about this story. Never.
yeah. So yes, and from there on, I did a few ventures here and there in high school. I wanted to start a club, a membership club and stuff. And there was a phase where so I wasn't always the best student. I was a pretty decent student, but I wouldn't say I was the best. So there were phases where I was like, this is during my A levels, where I got really invested in a venture where I wanted to start a membership club. I rounded off my cousins and I was trying to convince them to invest. Then I had another cousin who used to run a printing business. I was like, hey, can you help me make up these membership cards? You have your silver, golds,
Mhm.
and whatnot. And then I
Mhm.
told my parents I don't want to go to school anymore because I want to scale this business. You know,
Wow.
uh,
Look at that. Second business already like age what? 16, 17. You already started your
This was in
second
my A
business.
levels, yes. So kind of between 16 and 17.
Mhm.
So, but
Still in
this
India,
never
right? That was still in India.
still in India, yes. So
Yeah.
that never went anywhere. My parents somehow convinced me that look, finish schooling and started. But I had a whole business plan, literally like a notebook of ideas and all.
Hmm.
So that one died, and then I moved to the UK immediately after schooling, and
Why?
so just education, really. I
So you
just
went
wanted.
alone. You moved. You kind of thought that you would get a better education in the UK, and
Yes,
then
I had to really fight with my parents to move because
oh,
in India typically people went for post grad, but not so much for undergrad back in the day. So there was a
mhm,
4 year investment and stuff.
mhm,
So I had to really convince my parents, but I don't know because in the years prior to that, I went there. I had a lot of family there, like cousins and all,
oh,
and I just really fell in love with the place, and I thought this is where I wanted to be. So
mm.
like everything else I got my parents, I made their life hell until they decided to send me. You know? So yeah, but my family really supported me because a lot of the relatives were like, hey, it's not a good move at this age and stuff. But my parents always backed me, and I'd say for anything else I did in the future as well. They were always there for me, so that really helped a lot.
Mm.
And after going there, I mean, so generally what happens in the UK is, and I'm guessing it's pretty similar all over Europe, is a lot of students work part time as well and stuff. Whether
Mhm.
it's working in McDonald's and stuff to kind of supplement your income and get some exposure. So I did
Yeah.
that in the student union for a while. I worked for the student union, signing up people for the student union and stuff. And then I thought, this is not going to make me rich anytime soon. So I decided to start a business on the side.
Hmm.
And so actually, sorry, just prior to that, there was a business competition there, wherein
Hmm.
the university was offering £4,000 for anyone who wins it, which was a
Hmm.
massive amount of money for
Hmm.
an 18-year-old. I was like, I want this money. So I decided to take part, and I reached out to the professors and stuff, and I was like, how can I do this? And they were like, hey, you should wait it out because a lot of the students who take part are master's students and stuff.
Hmm.
And so I wasn't very encouraged, but I at that point I was like, hey, I really want to do this. So I came up with a few business ideas, wrote my plan, and I emailed it to almost like 70, 80 people. Anyone I could find online who was influential, like authors of business books, business writers. I went to Forbes, I read articles, and I took the name of the author, found, if I could find the email. I just made a copy paste template email.
Hmm.
I might have misrepresented my situation a little bit, saying, hey, I'm a student. I really want to win this competition and stuff. I'm really looking for some advice and stuff. I made a very
Sorry,
strong
what was the
case.
competition about? What was the topic of the competition? You were
So
competing on what?
it was a business plan competition. So you had to
Oh, business
submit a
plan.
business plan. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay. Now I get it. Okay. So you had to submit the best business plan amongst all your peers, and the best big business plan would win. All right. All right. Okay.
absolutely.
Now I
Yes.
understand. So, and then you started your first email campaign. That was what, in the 90s or what?
Yeah, no, this is 2004.
2004, you were already running your first cold outreach email campaign. Look at you, man. I'm
Actually, and
impressed.
and
I'm
I had
really
no,
impressed.
no, to be honest, I wasn't expecting a lot of people to respond, and I was amazed. I mean, I sent about 70 emails. I got about 5 or 6 responses. So I included my business plan in those emails and saying, hey, can you critique this and tell me how I can improve this?
Mhm.
As a first year student, I wasn't always using professional terms, and I might not have thought of gaps in the plan and stuff. So I got some advice. Some of them were just literally like 2 lines. Some of them just encouraged me. But there were 2 people who took a very deep interest, and one of them was an author from the US who'd written some kind of a business book. And he gave
Mhm.
me a very detailed critique, literally commented on every single paragraph and stuff. And I had a back and forth chain going with him, which really, really helped me refine the plan. And the second person was a Canadian. So she was a business person and a psychologist. And I had the same thing going with her. And sometimes they had contradictory ideas. So that really helped me kind of refine the plan. And I actually ended up, so I had 2 things going on. So I ended up submitting 2 entries in the competition. And I just sat on it, and in the end, like once everything was done, I actually ended up winning it. And that was the turning
No
point in my
way.
life.
This
Yeah.
is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. So you had this creativity to not just like join, and the courage to join a competition which where you were kind of not at par, with the big boys. So you were actually like the young boy, and then you go and reach out to business authors around the world, and you get their advice, and you freaking win the competition. I mean, come on. I mean, this is unbelievable.
Yeah, to be honest, sometimes when I look back at that time, I think it was easier for me to reach out because when you're young, you have very little to lose. Whereas now, if I have to reach out to influencers, like I'll think twice. Like, how does it reflect on me? Is this good or bad? And sometimes out of that fear, I might not do those things. So this is when one of the things about being young is your risk appetite is so much higher because you've so
Yeah.
less to lose, right? So
Hmm.
it was one of those that, like, if they respond, I'll probably gain something. If they don't respond, I have nothing to lose. So
Yeah.
and one of the things I've learned over the years and I've used in my business a lot is, people are generally helpful, irrespective of wherever they are in this life. And if you reach out to them, you'll be amazed how many of them actually come back to you and help. And sometimes when we look at successful people, we think, hey, this person wouldn't have the time to respond to me, or why would they respond to me? But everyone has like that deep urge to feel good about themselves and to help others. So even by
Mhm.
responding to you in a way, they're also helping themselves. They're kind of fulfilling their higher level needs, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, I would always
That,
encourage, like, reach out to anyone you can.
wow. There we have. There's already a piece of wisdom right here. Reach out to people even though it seems unlikely for them to respond, because sometimes, you'll be surprised how helpful people are, even though they are somehow at the top of the game or very successful or famous or what. Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, and you provided a perfect example. Like at this young age, you already did it, and you had the courage and the smartness to kind of outplay all your competitors by by getting help from others, and you got help. So that's really impressive.
I think you make a great point, in quotes, like getting help, because I feel like this should be one of the core principles of anyone trying to get ahead in life, is like just ask for help. We just
Mhm.
don't do that enough, I think.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and even I would
true.
say that for myself sometimes.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh
Because
my
that
God.
requires kind of overcoming your ego to an extent, and
Hmm.
that like kind of, if you can elevate yourself above the ego to some extent, or at least when you genuinely need help, that solves
Hmm.
a lot of issues in life, isn't it?
Hmm. Yeah, that is very powerful, man. That is very powerful. Yeah, and it does it does give a completely different angle to our communication if we actually ask for help, if we are being genuine and vulnerable, which is sometimes not so easy. Everybody wants to come across as strong and perfect. But yeah, if we admit that we don't know stuff, we need help, um, it can lead to quite surprising results. Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
So you made your 4,000 pounds. Congratulations. That
Thank
was
you.
like a that was a lot. Yeah, I can only imagine how happy you were with this little shower of money falling from the sky.
Yeah, no, that was great. I mean, it went towards contributing for my fee, because as foreign students back in the day, and I think it's still the same, you pay like 8 times the fee that local students pay.
Oh
So,
wow, eight
you know,
times.
yeah, because like that's the business model, really.
Mm,
But yeah, but I think there was a very important stage of my career, because one, it gave me the confidence that I can do something bigger, and I can go on my on my own in a foreign country and start a
mhm,
venture and stuff and be successful. And second, it gave me a lot of exposure, because it had a second round where you compete with winners from other universities around the UK,
oh,
and I completely tanked in that second round. So I should also have mentioned that. But as a result of that, I got mentorship and stuff that helped from my university. Uh,
mhm,
and at that time, I also started my first real business, which was it was an e-commerce business. Actually, this is way before like Amazon. Amazon was still a bookstore at that point, so in
mhm,
2004 as well. And I started, so I thought, hey, working at the student union wasn't really gonna get me anywhere. uh, they paid like minimum UK wage, like six, I think it was £5.40 or something an hour at that point.
mm, mm, mm,
So I started bringing in fashion jewelry from India. I just knew a few suppliers there, and I started off offline. So I had set a booth in the university, and then I went to Sunday markets, and that was really actually physical labor, because you literally pack your car first thing in the morning at 5:30, and you're at these markets, and you put up, and then the results are fairly average. But then I moved it online, so I started an e-commerce, but it was an e-commerce wholesale business. So
oh,
we were selling to retail stores in the UK who could buy, they had like a minimum order of like £100 or something, and
mhm,
that really took off actually, because I mean, how we marketed back in the day was forums, right? Just be really active in a lot of forums, and you have your signature with your website link, and that's where majority of the traffic was coming from. and then you had
Wow.
wholesale directories. So so that business was a first formal organized business for me where we deployed online marketing strategies, and that's how my relationship with China started.
Mm.
Because eventually, while I was still bringing products from China, I found from India, sorry, then I found China had a different kind of product to offer. So I started bringing in goods from China as well. So got a little bit of exposure importing products and stuff. And so I did this till I was in the UK really, because after I graduated, I worked for a company called Eon, which is an energy company, and I was working as a
Mhm.
competitive intelligence analyst, and that was the only job I've had in my entire life. Where I thought, okay, I worked for an year, but exactly after 11 months, I kind of gave up. And I did learn a lot from that job because my analytical skills improved a lot, and working in a
Mhm.
structured environment and planning skills. But it was
Mhm.
just the drive was very different. Like 5 o'clock, the office was dead. Everyone went home. Fridays were almost half day, so it was too comfortable, and it paid
Mhm.
well. But I just thought that, hey, I mean, I don't know, compared to doing something a little bit more exciting and really pushing yourself, that was the bit that was lacking. So I came to China, and China was obviously growing at 10, 12% a year at that point, which is, I think, historically unheard of for any economy. China is one of the few
Mhm.
countries that has done a 10% growth rate for a period of 10 to 15 years. So I thought
Mhm.
this is where the action was. But when I came here, I had no plans to stay here. I thought I'll stay here for a while and then go back. And then I just
So
fell in
you,
love with the country.
so you just moved. You came to China to visit because of its economic growth, or was that the main reason for you to come to China and just go and look around and see what happens, or did you have like a
Absolutely.
connection, or did you have a plan, or did you go to meet someone, or
No, nothing at all. I had like
wow.
absolutely zero, connections or uh, goals or anything. I just landed here and I had like no clue what I really wanted to do.
So you just decided to go to China because China is the future, because China is doing so well. That was your concept.
Yes, yes, I had obviously some
Wow.
exposure to China, talking to my suppliers on Alibaba
Yeah.
Chat. That was the main
Hmm.
main tool of communication back in the day, Alibaba
Okay.
Messenger. And that
Hmm.
was that was pretty much it really. But I did know that it was where the opportunity was because China was in the news all the time, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
So and the first year or so, I had like no clue what I want to do. I mean, I tried a few things here and there, and then I was in Beijing at that point, and then I realized the trading hub is Guangzhou. It's not really Beijing, so I need to
Hmm.
move. So I moved to Guangzhou, and then again we started. I started a company called IMEX Chemicals, which was a chemicals export business,
Hmm.
and that did okay, didn't really do that well, and then we started getting some ad hoc requests, people like, hey, you're in China, can you help me with that? So that's how IMEX
Hmm.
sourcing services started.
Hmm.
And and we started doing, and then gradually the sourcing business started doing better than the chemicals business, so we started focusing on that. And then we realized
Hmm.
our market was the UK because I had lived there. I understood how business is done there better than I understood how business is done in India, because one, I don't come from a business family, so there was no, that generational passing of knowledge that happens in business families.
Hmm.
And being in the UK doing a few things, I had a pretty good understanding of the business culture there, and we
Hmm.
did well in the UK market. So first 2 years, most of our clients were from the UK. And
Hmm.
then FBA started, Amazon
Hmm.
FBA, and amazing
Yeah.
selling machine. You might be aware of it, right?
I was part
They
of it, man. I was part of it
so this
in
is when
2014.
yes, so this is a bit earlier than that. I think it was ASM 2 and stuff, and they really took off. Everyone was talking about it. People making great money. We just got flooded with inquiries, and then I completely repositioned the business. I think maybe we were the first company in China to do that. We said we're a supply chain company for e-commerce sellers, and that reflected in all our
Hmm.
branding. So we're not doing traditional importers or other kinds of clients because we thought this opportunity is great. e-commerce is only going to expand and traditional retail is only going to contract. So yes, that's and at that point we scaled fairly quickly, and yeah, since then that's what we've been doing really.
Wow. Holy cow, man. I have goosebumps from this story. I mean, you just followed your gut feeling to a completely unknown country called China because you saw the opportunity. I mean, that takes like a lot of courage, you know? Not many people just completely leave, their home and then even the second home and just go to a place without having any things like ready waiting for them. You just went there just to see what was happening in China, and you took your chances. And I really admire so much courage to do that and to just go out like a pioneer, like into the wild east, kind of.
Yeah,
And then
no.
things really worked in your favor. I mean, like big time. This whole FBA and e-commerce and Amazon stuff. You were the guy who was ready in China to help them. That's really unbelievable.
Yeah, no, I think I was a little bit lucky because when I came here,
You were lucky when you were 10 years old already. Remember, you are a lucky boy.
yes. Can you, Dana, can you still hear me? I think it's
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
okay. I think the video froze there for a while, so I wasn't sure.
It looks fine on my end. Looks all good here.
Okay, okay, great. So, yes, so no, I was just saying that when I came to China, I found people were just so nice, and I actually fell in love with the culture as well. So the business aside, it was
Mhm.
just a great country. The work ethic, people working really hard. You can see why China is where it is because of the work ethic of the people. People
Mm.
really work hard here even now, and there is a certain degree of hunger. The hunger to succeed and be a
Mm.
great country and stuff. And
Mm.
I think, I mean, when I've spoken to other people who are in business and stuff, I think entrepreneurs kind of feed off that hunger because they feel
Mm.
that this is where I want to operate. I can reach out to someone at 9:30 at night and get stuff
Mm.
done. Whereas,
Mm.
obviously, in the developed world, sometimes you feel they've reached a level of development where the hunger is not the same because of
They get
obviously
yeah.
it's a more secure environment, right?
They're getting comfortable. Yeah. Yeah. This is the cycle of world economies. Yeah, there's a very interesting book about this, where they describe how this hunger that you describe now brings people to thrive and the economies to grow and the wealth of the country to go up and up and up until people get comfortable. So they get
Mhm.
wealthy, they get comfortable, and then suddenly this drive kind of goes down, and then people, just stick to office hours, and then things become, they deteriorate. But yeah, you came to China at the right time, and I just wonder, how do you speak to these people? I mean, you went to a country that doesn't speak your language. I mean, that's another one. I mean, it's easy to go from India to UK to US or to wherever where people speak English, but you went to a country where I don't know how many percent of the Chinese people speak English. I think it's not many.
It's very small. Yes, and the
Yeah.
the challenging part was, in a lot of countries you can get away with basic words like water or taxi, but
Mm-hmm.
even today that's very hard in China.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll find a percentage of the population that speaks English, but the ones who don't speak it at all. It's not like
Yeah, yeah,
they'll
yeah.
know one or two words or even a hello for
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
So that was
Exactly.
an
Yeah.
interesting challenge, but we picked up the basic words and stuff, and a combination of
Mm-hmm.
translation software
Mm-hmm.
and a little broken Chinese and hand gestures, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
misunderstandings. I had some funny stories where people completely misunderstood what I wanted to say, but between all that, somehow managed to survive.
Yeah, I really admire that. I mean, you are really like like a cowboy back in the days, who just went into, the unknown, into the Wild West, and you didn't speak the language, you didn't know the country, you didn't really have a reason. I mean, other than your gut feeling, there was no like external thing or like a practical thing where normally people would like parents would send their kids, or you have a job opportunity, somebody asks you to work for them at this I mean, this is the regular case, but you had this incredible courage to just go and then see what happens, and then things happened, and yeah, you got lucky, but this luck, I think, is a result of something, is a result of your courage and result of your instincts, which seem to work very well, to kind of sense where the opportunity lies, and to to bring yourself into this environment where you can thrive and grow. So you have I have a lot of respect for that, man.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate. I do want to say that it's not all, success. We had, like, in the first 2 3 years of our business, I think I made less money than my job was paying me. So
Yeah.
so that was a challenging time. My family was obviously
Hmm.
not happy with my move. I gave up on a job
Of
that
course.
was paying really well, and obviously
Hmm.
a country where they have a lot of relatives and friends, where they
Hmm.
would rather have me stay so they can come and visit me and meet their friends and stuff. So yeah, but they supported me, even when I started the business. My father
Yeah, yeah.
did help me out. So I would also like to say that I'm quite lucky in that sense, that I have a supported family there.
Hmm. Hmm. Cool. Yeah, but this is exactly, one part of entrepreneurship is it doesn't always easy. I mean, it's not, like it's not a walk in the park. Of course, we have challenges. Of course, things don't work the way they, and you, of course, you are facing some challenges and some tough times as well. But you pulled through and you mastered it. So, and I think your story could inspire a lot of people to, to kind of pick up this kind of notion, this kind of courage that you expressed throughout your whole life journey. So I think this is very inspiring, man.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm very glad to have asked you to join my podcast, Mr. Ash. And I would like to, as your closing words, what would you recommend to an entrepreneur who gets started today? What would you say to them? What would be the most important things to implement and to look at?
I would say we live at a time where there is so much opportunity, right? There is never
Yeah.
a better time to be an entrepreneur. And I mean, in terms of what I look at what the emerging technologies are today, whether it's AI or anything. And secondly, what I've found is, I mean, there are two critical pillars of success in entrepreneurship. One is knowledge, obviously. So the more you can read, the more you can join communities of entrepreneurs, whether it's Startup Grind or Entrepreneurs Organization, or however you can surround yourself. And that's an area where I've been really, really bad. I wish that's something I could change about my past, but whenever I have taken an initiative, I benefited from it. So these two are like really critical pillars. Like, you want to be updating yourself all the time. And I think the second most critical pillar, which differentiates a lot of really knowledgeable people who are not always that successful, is a risk.
Hmm.
So I think the more risk you can take, the more you can kind of challenge your beliefs, the more you can kind of, like you put it earlier, venture into the unknown. You can only gain from it, because either you will have success or you will have lessons, which you can use to become successful eventually.
Hmm.
So, and the fact that a very small proportion of the people do it, still 1% of the population owns the 90% of the global wealth, right? So,
Yeah.
so you don't actually need to take advice from the 99%. You just need to really closely track the 1% and see how you can replicate some of those habits and how they structure
Hmm.
their life. And
Hmm.
you'll be basically on your path to success.
And this is what you actually did in the early 2000s, reaching out to successful business authors and business people for to win your competition. So, yeah, you perfectly implemented all these things. That's really really cool, Mr. Ash. I thank you so much for being here. It was a big pleasure to hear your story. I every time I'm so surprised and to hear, what has been happening in people's lives, and every time again, such such amazing insights, that I get to hear from people like you. So thank you so much for sharing this. Let's make sure that people get to see this and listen to this and get inspired by your story, man.
No, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share it. I know really, really do appreciate that a lot.
My pleasure, man. Very good. You have a good day. We stay in touch.
You too. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.